sure we should be good.
Good evening, everyone. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, please do the roll call for this evening.
Councilwoman Melly Garthwaite,
Melly Garthwaite, Council at Large, present.
Councilman Brian Laux,
Brian Laux, Council at Large, present.
Councilwoman Ann Heffernan,
Councilwoman Ann Heffernan, 1st District, present.
Councilwoman Michelle Coletti,
Michelle Coletti, 2nd District, present.
Councilwoman Sarah Akbarali is absent. Councilman Gary Donovan,
Councilman Gary Donovan, 4th District, present.
Councilman Edward McMillan,
Councilman Edward McMillan, 5th District, present.
Councilwoman Dawn Callahan is absent.
I'm here.
Oh, you're there. Oh, I didn't
Hi.
snuck in. She's here.
I'm
Yay.
here, but I'm not here.
Sorry about that.
Councilwoman Callahan, 6th District, here.
It's on.
Councilwoman Catherine Tucker,
Councilman Catherine Tucker, 7th District, present.
Councilman Christopher Vargo,
Councilman Christopher Vargo, 8th District, present.
Councilwoman Katie Muller,
Katie Muller, City Councilwoman, District 9, present.
Councilman Stephen Johnstone is absent, and Chairman Nicholas Pascal.
Nicholas Pascal at large, present.
And we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, would you please read the call of this special meeting at this time?
West Haven City Council, legal notice, agenda, special meeting, public hearing of Finance Committee, Council as a whole, in accordance with the City Charter, Chapter, I think that's 19, Section 4 of the City Council of the City of West Haven, will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, April 4th, 2024, at 6:30 p.m. in the Harriet North Courtroom, 2nd floor, City Hall, 355 Main Street, West Haven, at which time any elector or taxpayer may have an opportunity to be heard regarding appropriations for the fiscal year July 1, 2024 to June 30th, 2025. Electors are also hereby notified of the right and power of the electorate with regard to a referendum in accordance with the City Charter, Chapter 18. Mayor Dorinda Boer's recommended budget for fiscal 2024-2025 in its entirety can be found on the City of West Haven's website at www.cityofwesthaven.com.
Thank you very much. And Mayor Boer, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. And can everybody hear me okay? Yep, okay. So you're going to hit, bear with us.
If it turns red, we're
There
good.
we go. Magic. Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody for coming this evening. Thank you to the City Council for hosting this public hearing, for all the work that you're about to do on the budget. It was about 2 weeks ago where I presented my budget to the City Council, and I gave those highlights there. As Chairman Pascal said, the detail of the budget is online, so it breaks it down by department. But tonight, I'm just going to walk through the high-level overview of the budget. And I know we're going to hear from the public as well. And then, of course, after tonight, I'm available for any questions or comments or input that anybody may have. So, it's our nice big chair down our beach. Nice cover page. So I thought I'd start off with talking a little bit about our different roles, because I know we have an extra layer of government here in West Haven. And it gets a little confusing. For all of us, but I think after 6 years we understand how it all jives. So the mayor's role with respect to the budget is I meet with the department heads, and this year we did it a little differently. In addition to having the department heads submit to me their budget line items and a justification for each line item, I also met with the department heads to talk about where are the opportunities for more revenue drivers, where's the opportunity for more operational efficiencies or reducing expenses. So it was a great educational experience for all of us, and we made significant changes based on those meetings, and I thank all the department heads for their work. I then presented the proposed budget and the five-year capital plan to the council on March 21st. So all of these dates are required by charter, our city charter, that we have to meet. This does not include the five-year plan. So there's a difference between the five-year capital plan and the five-year projected plan. This budget is the operating budget. It includes the capital plan. It includes the Allentown Fire Department, and also includes sewer. As you know, West Shore and the Center Fire District are two separate budgets with two separate budget processes. Those go to public for a vote. On the same day that I submit the budget to the council, I'm required to submit the budget to the MARB. So we submit the budget to the MARB, and we had a subcommittee meeting on March 28th where we already started to get input on the budget. So what's happening is the budget will be worked on a parallel track. So the council will be working on the budget. At the same time, the MARB will be working on the budget. We will take that input from the MARB and provide it to the council. We have a MARB liaison. Councilman Locks is the liaison. He'll be taking back information from those meetings as well. And then the council will take that and consider that input as they work on the budget. And then the full MARB is meeting on April 11th. So we'll be reviewing it with the full MARB at that point. The council's role is to hold the public hearing, which we are doing this evening. The Finance Committee, now they will go through a series of meetings with department heads and inquire and ask about the justification for their line items. And then they're required by charter to pass the budget by May 2nd. The MARB's role is to provide the input, as we said, during this process, and they have final approval of our council-approved budget and the five-year plan, and that needs to be done by early June because we need to make the time frame to be able to mail out our tax bills and our notifications. Last year, it went right down to the wire the last day, so hopefully we don't get to that point this year. And just want to give a little bit of the history of the MARB in the recent years. So in recent years, the MARB, as I said, has final say over our budget and rejected the previous year budget and rejection of our five-year plan. So they had gone back to the prior mayor, Mayor Rossi, and the council and said, this isn't a five-year, we would like you to take this five-year plan back and revise it. They revised the plan and approved the fiscal year 24 budget in mid-June, as I said, down to the wire. And then that final approval of the five-year plan in late 2023 was inclusive of the 2.4 mil tax increase. The reason I mention this is because while that is a five-year plan, in the five-year plan that the MARB approves in the fiscal year 2025, it has that increase. So the reason we use that as a jumping off point is because if the MARB just approved the 2025 budget just a few months ago with that 2.4 mil tax increase, we can't present to them a budget that doesn't align with what they just requested that we do. But we can revise that five-year plan. And I'll get to how we revise that plan. But I also thought it was important because a lot of people ask me, well, you know, how are we doing with MARB? Where do we stand? Where's our road to recovery? What's the status? And where do we go from here? So I thought I would just share some of the benchmarks that we have to make in order, you know, it's not just to appease the MARB. We need to do these benchmarks because we want to be on the financial road to recovery and we need to demonstrate financial stability. So here are some of the benchmarks that are in the law, state statute, that we have to meet once you're in Tier 4. We can't have any audited operating deficits, and they give a defined time frame for how many years we cannot have deficits. We have to have an approval positive projection, including 3 fiscal years going forward. We can have no credit downgrade, and we must be of investment grade. So we have to be after our tier designation. So this all starts after Tier 4. A new clock starts ticking. So after that Tier 4 designation, we can't have any of these things happen, or we go back to the beginning of Tier 4. Our audits have to be timely with no significant deficiencies. We've been behind 2 audits. We've recently caught up with fiscal year 2022, completed in December of this past December. We're on a very aggressive course to finish the 2023 audit by this June. That will catch us up. If we get caught up, our audits will be on time, which is really significant milestone for us to exit MARB. Plus, we have to have our audits done. We need to have a positive fund balance for 3 consecutive years projected. Our positive fund balance, and this is really key for the budget process as well, has to be at least a 5% cushion in the general fund balance. So as you may recall, back in 2017, the reason we originally went into MARB is because we had significant deficit. We were short $16 million. And the MARB gave us that funding to get us out of that significant deficit. And at that time, they said, you know, this is not a gift. We're going to give you this funding so you could start to turn your city around, but we're going to make very strong recommendations so you don't find yourself in that same situation again. So one of the other things that I did not add on this slide was that we cannot take any funding from them in order to get out of MARB. So for 3 years, we cannot take any more funding from MARB, and we haven't in the past few years. So we're on the road. So for this budget, using all of that backdrop, the mill rate increase reduced for versus the 5-year plan while maintaining financial goals. So the end result of taking their budget, bringing in new revenues, looking at our expenses, we're at 1.79% increase, which is a reduction of a 0.6 in the mill rate that was approved by the MARB. We did this by focusing on non-tax revenue sources. We evaluated the operations for maximum efficiencies. We looked at a reduction in expenditures where we're feasible. We continued to invest in public safety by funding the police retention increase that was approved last year. It increases the local share of valuable investment in our education. This is the first time we're providing an increase to our education system with local funding in 7 years. And I think, and I hope everyone agrees that it's really important to demonstrate our commitment to our children across the city regarding the importance of their quality education and, of course, our educators as well. This budget meets our contractual obligations. We have a number of unions, and some of them are in the 1st year, 2nd year, 3rd year of their contract, and we need to meet, obviously, those contractual obligations that were agreed upon. And it continues us on the road of financial stability. It also, this is a balanced budget. Obviously, we have to have a balanced budget. We have to put funds in contingencies for unexpected circumstances in case something comes our way. Hopefully not, but we have to have funds earmarked for that. This funds the police and fire pensions at more than the actuarially determined contributions. So we are given a number by our actuaries of what we need to do to contribute towards our liabilities. And this budget dedicates more funding than our actuaries actually told us to do. It increases our OPEB funding, which is our, the benefits, continues funding to the internal service fund deficit. So the council last year invested $2 million extra towards our internal service fund, and that internal service fund is a significant benchmark that credit agencies, state agencies, the MARB, all look at to see where are you with your internal service fund deficits, and that includes things like workers' compensation liabilities, and our workers' compensation over the years has been quite significant. So here's where we brought in, we're hopefully going to bring in some revenues from sources. We're going to look at the out-of-state license plates initiatives. We talked about this briefly a few weeks ago, but this is, going after folks who are here but are not registering their cars here. If you own a home in another state, that'll be, considered and an exception. But during COVID, we had an influx of thousands of residents that came in. Not everybody has registered their car here in West Haven. We welcome them here in West Haven, but we would like them to pay their taxes and share in the cost of services. Blight fines, if you saw recently in the news, we launched a Fight the Blight campaign. In recent years, or ever, we haven't been able to assess fines for blight because we did not have the structure in place to do so. We didn't have a legal structure in place, And we worked with our corporation council to put that structure in place, which includes a process for appealing. You can't assess and collect a blight fine unless you have an opportunity for someone to appeal that. So we now have that in place, and we certainly are going to go after blight fines. That also includes infractions that the police now assess. We've moved that over to our blight department, so we're going to be able to escalate what we collect on fines. We're also going to have a non-resident landlord registration process and fine. So there is a problem with those who are landlords who register as an LLC, and we can't find them because they don't register a live person and telephone number. So we were going to have a registration process where they have to register a live person and telephone number that we could contact them. It's a $25 fee to do so, but if they don't do so, it's a $500 fee. This is something that our larger cities do, and we're going to model that after this program. And this allows us it allows absentee landlords not to hide behind LLCs. We're looking at non-performing city-owned properties. We're currently in the process of appraising them and doing surveys to see where we stand and what our opportunity is. And then we also have realized an investment income increase, which is really great based on where we are with our investments. Expenditure reductions, we were strategically negotiating fuel costs and investments. So we're negotiating fuel costs because we locked in at a certain number a few years ago, and now we are going out to bid for our fuel costs because you bid that. And all indications are that we're going to be able to have a significant cost savings with our fuel this year for fiscal year 25. We also have a very aggressive program on renewable energy sources. We have a number of solar farms that are being installed across the city. We're reducing overtime significantly, so I just want to re-emphasize about the personnel vacancies. So, I know sometimes there's a thought that if you don't fill a position, right, and it's vacant, you're saving money. But it's really the reverse effect. When you're a government operation, you still have to provide those services, and if you don't have someone in that role, somebody else is going to have to fill that role at overtime, and typically that's about 1.5 times the amount per hour to pay for those employees. The city was also engaging in very high-priced consultants. I can't tell you how many consultants have been in our departments from Robert Half. I'm not criticizing Robert Half. They're very good, but we have a few too many Robert Half consultants in our city. So we are eliminating that. And we also are looking at cross-agency cost sharings. So, for example, we worked with the Housing Authority on senior transportation. So when you look at the budget and you see a cut to expenditures in senior transportation, we are not cutting senior transportation. We are actually going to share the costs with our partners at HUD. This is just to give you an idea of our state funding levels. So 23-24, our state grants were 32.49%. That actually is reduced because there was something called the municipal revenue cost sharing, and that was based on excess funds the state had. They disseminated it amongst a number of cities, so we had the benefit of getting another extra $2 million last year that we are not budgeting for this year. It's not to say we won't get it, but it's not a guarantee. So it's responsible to budget based on the governor's budget rather than where you think it's going to land. That's the only thing we could do at this point. And if we get more, it's gravy. It's a lot of gravy. But we can't budget for that, what we are not assured we are getting. Allocation of expenditures for our government. This gives you a breakdown from fiscal year 23 to 24. And as you can see, even though the Board of Education is the lion's share of the expenditures, it actually makes up slightly less of a percentage this coming year. Because we have the increase in public safety, and we also have the increase in the retiree health pension. So you see the difference there, but it's pretty much the same from year to year. And this just gives a graph of what we have gotten from our state partners. So it shows that what I was just talking about, that difference, the 58 million versus the 56 million between fiscal year '24 and fiscal year '25. Again, we're hoping we get that funding, but we don't budget for it. We budget conservatively. This gives a breakdown of where the revenue comes from. And I put a big note at the bottom because I want to point something out that I constantly remind those in our state government and our federal government. West Haven ranks 21 out of 169 cities for non-taxable percentage of property. So if you think about that, we get pilot funding, payment in lieu of taxes from our government to make up for that non-taxable property, but we only get it at 70%. So we're losing 30% of some of those big ticket items. So those are, University of New Haven, Yale. We have the Veterans Hospital that we don't get taxes for. We have some very large churches. But on the flip side, we also have to remember that a lot of those organizations also provide a lot of jobs to our community, and they are investing in our economy, right? They go to our gas stations, they go to our restaurants. So it's not all about that they're non-taxable property, but we do have that delta of that 30% that I like to point out. Especially pointing out when I'm trying to get more pilot money from the state of Connecticut. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about personnel. Prior to the budget, and I want to make sure I clarify something because in recent months, I've been working on restructuring personnel, and the council has been very gracious in working with me on that. And you've heard me, especially out in public, saying, we're hiring a senior accountant, we're hiring a finance director, we're hiring a facilities manager, a project manager. Except for 2 positions, those were all conversions of positions that we eliminated. So for example, to create the facilities manager, we eliminated assistant building official. To create a project manager, we took the funds from a consulting line item. So at the end of the day, prior to the budget, we only the additional positions were payroll manager, which we only have 1 payroll person right now. And not only was this an audit issue, but we need to have a second payroll person. And the auditors suggested that we combine our payroll system with the Board of Education. So eventually we will be leading to that. So we need a payroll manager to do that, plus we're gonna go out to bid for our payroll system. And then obviously an economic development director was lacking at the city and it was a critical position. So that brings us to the budget. Where do we stand with the personnel with the budget? So I wanna point out when you're looking through the budget book or online, that otherwise indicated the salary increases are contractual, right? So we can't go in and, change salaries. Up or down. Salaries are always budgeted at top step. So it might not be what the person is making, but traditionally you budget salaries at top step. And that gives the opportunity for movement when you go to the next, right? Because there may be a contract change mid-year, so you have to have that budgeted in there. We also had a true up, I don't even know if that's really a phrase, but we had a true up salaries for fiscal year '25 versus fiscal year '24 from the prior budget. So I think the prior administration, and listen, I'm not here to second guess, I'm just explaining what the difference is. The prior administration, if the position was vacant, cut it in half for the remainder of the year. But when you do that, so for example, the city planner makes $110,000. But when the budget was created last year, because it was vacant, the thought was, well, it's vacant, so let's cut it down to $60,000. Well, now you can't recruit somebody, and now they're not, it's not meeting the union contract as well. So you have to bring it back up to that 110 in order to recruit and fill that position, if that makes sense. And then in this budget, I eliminated some positions, an organizational human resources position, a human resources admin position, an assistant building official, and 2 part-time and elderly services in lieu of added positions for full transparency. And what this is really all about is I wanted to look at, did those other positions make sense, and where are we really where do we really fall short in our government? Internal auditing, clearly we've had an issue with internal auditing in the past, and we need a position that keeps our eyes on our financial controls within the finance department. This was a recommendation as well. And then the youth services coordinator, the senior services outreach, and the community health network. This is an area where I believe that we've fallen short in our city in really outreach to the vulnerable populations that we're meant to serve. To me, I don't know that we need another HR admin. I think we need somebody who reaches out to our youth. I think we could all agree that there's gaps, and we need somebody who puts their arms around how do we help the youth in our community. And then senior services, we haven't had that kind of outreach that lets our seniors know what critical resources are available. And then the community health network, we need someone who's assessing the health needs, both physical and mental. There needs to be parity with mental health in our community, and how do we address it? And we need professionals to help us do this. And blight zoning enforcement, we all know how much we want to attack blight. We have one person for the city that's doing blight, so I think it's an investment, not an expense. That's the way I look at it. And then a fire marshal for Allentown. And then also I added some assistance to marketing. We have had zero marketing budget in West Haven, zero. And when you invest in marketing, you get it back threefold. For every dollar you spend in marketing, statistics show you get back $3, because we need to compete. We need to compete with grants. We need to compete with other cities. We need to bring investors here. And, we don't even have money to do a mailer or an outreach. So I think marketing, that's only like $27,000, not even a lot. And then also I want to point out an error I made in the budget. It had an added position in human resources, which was supposed to be a reduction. So I actually caught that today. Last but not least, it's actually not the last slide, but I'm getting there. We have a balanced budget. And what I wanted to show you is really where the difference is between 24 and 25, and that's the column all the way to the right. So I highlighted, our drivers are public safety, our police and our fire, and ERS, our pension and our health care that continues to go up at an alarming rate, but we also have to invest in our liabilities, and then Board of Education, which is the increase. So this gives you a snapshot of the difference between 24 and 25. And I just, I put a note down here that none of this budget cuts our services. And then that separately, but still under the city, is the Allentown Fire Department. And I really appreciate the chief, the commissioners, and the firefighters have all been meeting, and I have met with them to talk about how do we, restructure a little better and keep that mill rate steady. In this case, we actually brought it down slightly, but still invest in the pension liability because, as I keep hammering home, our pension liabilities are something that we have to continue to focus on. And by working with the chiefs and the commissioners, we were able to achieve this. There was no reduction in service. We actually added the marshal and a firefighter and took the mill rate down. Capital requirements, there's a whole schedule in the back of your budget book that talks about we have to project our capital requirements, anticipate what investments we have to make for 5 years, and you'll see that in the back of the book. That, again, was obtained from each department head. Wherever possible, the grants department is investigating alternative sources for funding. We have significant grants underway right now, whether it's paving and sidewalks, flood erosion, bike paths. We have a lot of grants that are in the queue that we are really working on to bring in some funding to West Haven, and I hope we see that those come to fruition in the near future. We also have bonding and community investment fund and our federal delegation grant requests into them as well. The bonding includes the Washington School. And then I want to point out that the main drivers of our entire capital requirements is our WPCA upgrades and replacements. we have a $70 million outflow pipe at the Water Pollution Control Authority that flushes out to the ocean that needs to be replaced. It needs to be replaced by deep requirements. We have asked FEMA for a grant to help us pay for that, and we've asked the Clean Water Fund to help us pay for that. If that doesn't come through, it's a $70 million cost for that outflow pipe, in addition to the odor control and the pump station. And, you know, our pump stations, like the one on East and Beach and Dawson Avenue, those pump stations cost $22 million each. So we are upgrading them, but each pump station is significant. WPCA is our largest critical funding need. And then we're, in the Capitol, we're investing in public works equipment for infrastructure, whether it's a water vac or the sweepers. We have to upgrade our equipment. Traffic control upgrades, we have about $500,000 for design and study for our traffic control upgrades, and if we pay for the design and the study, SCROG will pay for the implementation, which is about $5 million. So putting that funds out and an outlay up front for the design is well worth investment. And then we'll be upgrading our IT, security, upgrades, and software. And that is the end of my presentation.
Mayor Bohr, thank you very much for the presentation this evening.
You're welcome.
Next up, we have Superintendent Cavallaro with the Board of Education budget. And I just wanted to remind folks, after this presentation's done, there is a sign-up sheet at the podium. If you want to speak this evening, please put your name and address on that sign-up sheet. Thank you. Whenever you're ready.
Now you can, right? All right, I can talk loud if I have to anyway. First of all, while Matt is setting up, I want to thank everybody in attendance. First of all, the representatives who are here from the West Haven Federation of Teachers, our board chairwoman, who's always supportive of the educational community, be it financially or just one of our biggest advocates, Kevin Waterfield, Matt Cavallaro, our finance director, Colette Bennett, who is our language arts coordinator. Judy Drenzik is our assistant superintendent of schools. Stefan Yulari, who you'll hear from in a little bit, is our director of pupil services. And Rafaela Frank, who is our science coordinator. But more importantly, tonight she'll play the role of our EL coordinator, and you'll hear about some of the needs of this district. So, Matt, whenever you're ready, I'm ready. You know, it's a terrible thing when you get old. I have to have the paper in front of me. I can't see it. I don't know which glasses to put on. I get dizzy. There we go. Okay, so I think cut to the chase right away. First of all, we're here tonight, all of us from the educational community, to advocate that you pass Mayor Bohr's recommendation and allocation to the West Haven Board of Education this year. We think that, it's been long overdue, and we'll show you some slides. By the way, most of the slides you have were part of your booklet. What we did was we condensed them. We tried to make some highlights, and we'll point them out to you tonight. And obviously, we have our meeting on the 30th. We're happy to answer any questions. But also, while I think of it, I want to make the offer that for any council person who has any questions between now and budget passage, my office is available, and we'll get the right people in the room, and we'll make sure that we do the best we can to explain and justify our request. But we're really happy that the mayor fully funded our budget, and we follow it pretty closely. We get the numbers from most of the school districts around the state. We think from a request point of view and from a funded point of view, it was one of the lower requests, and I think our board does a wonderful job and is very cognizant of the city's financial condition, but we give our kids a pretty good education here in West Haven. Mayor alluded to this before, and again, I think this says a lot. If you look, one thing about West Haven as far as education goes, if you look at the education cost-sharing grant, which is money that comes from the state of Connecticut, we're funded about half, 50%, from the state of Connecticut. And since 2016, it hasn't changed, with the exception of the upcoming recommended budget, where the mayor gave us the almost $2 million and the 2.2% increase. You can look, at one time it was pretty close. There was a little bit of a discrepancy, and you can see, again, it's pretty close, but I think that it's important that the city makes its contribution, and we try to keep as close as we can, if not even a little bit more than what the state gives us. That's an investment in education. One thing that we try to be very upfront with, and we try to inform our board and educate our board, and we want you guys to know as well, that if you look at the top line of the general operating budget, that's the money we're requesting from you guys. But to be fair, we want you to know that there are other funding sources. The difference between the general operating budget, and most of that money does go to salaries and benefits, as you would expect. All of the money with all of the grants are targeted money, and every one of those grants, and when we spend that money, has to be prior approved by either the State Department of Education or the federal government. So we don't have discrepancy in many cases for operational funds. But what we're talking about tonight, which you'll be examining over the next couple of weeks, is the general operating budget and the request that we've made and what the mayor has funded. And again, we think that the request is very reasonable. It's about $2 million, or 2.2% of the current budget. I'll point out now that that's the money that we not had to ask for, but to keep status quo we did, because and there's a page that I'll get to towards the end of the presentation, which shows that our ESSER funding needs to be spent. That's the COVID relief money by September 30th, and that money goes away. And basically what we're asking for is that when we take the money into our local budget, the city funds that. City funds those programs and or teachers, mostly teachers, by the way, who offer support in our school district to our neediest kids, be funded. I also want to point out, too, I think it's important that you know that of the $2 million, the mayor alluded to the 5-year plan, which was approved by MARB. $1.5 million of that was approved by MARB. And not that that's official, but they took a look at our budget, and they saw fit to approve our part of the budget, which includes a $1.5 million increase. Again, no surprise here. If you look at the budget, most of the budget is salary and benefits. Tuition is special education tuition. Transportation, which we believe we get one of the better values in the area, but it is a rising cost. Believe it or not, to operation of plant are fixed costs and electricity and those kinds of things. Instructional support, which is the smallest part of our budget, is the discretionary part of the budget. Now, what we always point out is that through the other grants, we're pretty well funded. So even though that looks, and that's a really low number, 1.5% to be spent on instructional supports and supplies, we do have other funding sources, and we're able to use the grant money. So we do pretty well as far as supplying teachers and whatnot with the equipment they need, with the supplies they need. We recently, and I should mention this, last year the legislature passed a K through 3 reading program, mandatory reading program. We had to pick one of the 8. That's about a $2 million investment over the next 3 years that we're going to have to make. We are very fortunate. That's not coming out of our operating budget, or it's not part of our request. It's coming out of leftover ESSER funds. So I think that's a really good thing. And again, I would point out to you, and if you had any specific questions, I'll justify how we spent our ESSER money, because I think we spent it very well on both infrastructure and instructure. Again, I'll go through these slides quickly. They're basically how the money is spent. The contractual salary increase is almost $2.8 million. One of the things that the city did, the city council approved, the Board of Education, both unanimous, by the way, and even MARB unanimously approved our teacher contract. We gave them 4%. I wish I could have given them more. However, it's what the city could afford. If you don't know it, there is a teacher shortage throughout the state of Connecticut. We are not real competitive. However, this puts us in a better position to be more competitive. And again, I think that we were able to show area towns in our district reference group and other cities around the state of Connecticut where our starting salary, which is very low, was very low. We were able to increase that a little bit, and hopefully, the idea behind giving the teachers a little bit more money is to not only attract teachers, but keep them here, because it's very competitive. If you talk to our teachers, they'll tell you. They get emails every day from openings in a lot of different districts. And, while we don't pay them what some of the other districts pay them, we like to think that we support them very well, we train them very well. And, our goal is to keep, when we get a good teacher, we want to keep them in West Haven. And, I believe we have, and our board attorney has said this as well, who represents probably 30 boards of education around the state of Connecticut, that we have some of the most loyal teachers in the state. So I think that says a lot. Again, benefits, the number that we're using for the increase may come in a little bit higher, may come in a little bit lower. We're hopeful it'll come in lower. We get that number from the city's third-party administrator. We don't just make up that number. They give us the number based on trends. So that's the number we use when we budget for benefits. The other line items, workman's comp and some of the other payroll taxes, retirement contributions and whatnot. Believe it or not, I know the mayor mentioned workman's comp and is an issue at the city. We've actually done pretty well at the board. Maybe it's because we don't have as many employees or whatnot, but that's a line item that has traditionally come in under what we budget for. However, again, one case, one incident, one accident, and you could be looking at a large number. All right, she can say it much better than I can, and she did a really good job of talking to Mar both at the subcommittee meeting and the state meeting. I'm going to introduce our pupil personnel director, Dr. Larry, and she will talk about the special ed costs and what some of the issues are, and really difficult issues. And a lot of circumstances beyond our control. So, Dr. Larry, if you'd come up.
Hi. So like Neil had mentioned, I'm Stefani Larry. I'm the Director of Pupil Services. I have the privilege of serving our students with disabilities here in West Haven and their families. We are very lucky that we have, as Neil had mentioned, some of the best teachers across the state and our support staff that provide this specialized instruction to over 1,300 students here in West Haven. In addition to special education instruction, we have at least one school psychologist in every building. At the elementary level, we have at least one social worker. Grades 5 through 12, we have upwards of 3 social workers in each of our buildings. We have a speech pathologist in every building. We contract out with ACEs to provide occupational therapy, physical therapy, and behavioral supports from a board-certified behavior analyst and our behavior technicians. And also, most importantly, our school nurses that are very integral to our team. When talking about students with disabilities, I don't think many people realize that the public school system introduces themselves as early as age 2. When students are in the birth of 3 system, we start attending their transition meetings, and we keep them, and we provide programming for these students all the way till 22. Used to be 21, but with recent legislation from this July, school districts are required to maintain programming for our students up to the age of 22. And if they turn 22 during the course of the school year, some of our kiddos are actually 23. So it's a good chunk of a child's life that they spend with the West Haven Board of Education system. And we pride ourselves in providing the best services for these kids. We are also fortunate to offer a variety of supports as far as how the services are delivered. Some students receive their specialized instruction right in the classroom setting. Some are pulled out through a resource model. Some receive all of their instruction in what's called a self-contained setting that's led by a special education teacher. And there are some kiddos that require a more therapeutic placement. When you look at the tuition budget, I want you to keep in mind a few things. Part of that tuition also includes our West Haven residents that attend a New Haven magnet school. We are responsible for providing, we're actually the fiscal agent for those students. So we pay for the tuition for their services that they receive in the New Haven magnet schools. As part of that tuition, it also includes our students that are under the McKinney-Vento Act, that are homeless at the period, or that are in DCF placements. So just to give you an example, I'll give you an example that sticks in my mind. We've had students that attended, siblings that attended our elementary schools that were living in a shelter in New London. So we paid for transportation every day from West Haven to New London because DCL felt that at some time they would be reunified with their parent, so they wanted to keep West Haven as their school of origin. Even though we advocated that, we thought it was best for the students to attend a New London elementary school because, seeing a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old be on a bus for that long every day is unsettling. Unfortunately, a lot of those cases are out of our hands. And, we have the responsibility of setting up the transportation and obviously supporting that. Since the board meeting, our number of students requiring a therapeutic setting has increased in such a short period of time. We've had many move-in students to the city of West Haven who were already outplaced, who were already receiving a therapeutic placement as indicated by their IEP. So when they move into town, we have to honor that. On some occasions, we do have a program within district that could meet their needs. And then, after a transition period, we sometimes can have them transition to our programming. But more often than not, they were placed in a therapeutic setting because they require a great deal of care, and we carry on that placement as well. We were very happy to see a dip last year to 118. Right now, we are at 134. If you ever heard me speak, I say this all the time, and I'll continue to say it. My goal and our goal in our department is to keep students in their neighborhood schools. I see a great value in that. I think it's important for families to be able to attend night events, to attend parent-teacher conferences, to play on their local playground in a neighborhood school. We do everything in our power to keep all of our students within their neighborhood schools receiving our quality instruction within their home school. But at times, unfortunately, it's after we've tried multiple interventions, a variety of different settings, that child isn't meeting with success, usually for behavioral reasons. And we have to seek an alternative placement. So that's what that number reflects. This is just one example of a tuition cost for one 7th grader who is in an autism-specific program at ACES Village School. His yearly tuition includes, he has on his IEP that he receives one-to-one para support due to his programming needs, and he receives related services at Village as well. Transportation, that is a shared ride. It's not a solo ride. He shares it with other individuals. Luckily, over the past few years, ACES has created a regional transportation system where if we have a student attending ACES Village, Orange has a student attending Village, New Haven has a student attending Village, they can share a ride rather than doing a solo run, because those tend to be very expensive. So this reflects a shared ride with an aide. And it's a substantial burden, for lack of a better word, on the district. Transportation costs, as you know, are continuing to rise. And then the bottom reflects the tuition rate pre-COVID. Is that it? No. Transition.
So this is the first year of a 5-year contract with the Winkle Bus Company. It was put out to bid last spring. Winkle was the only bidder, which caused the MARB to ask a lot of questions. Why wouldn't more people be interested? And frankly, I think they were leaning towards making us put it out to bid until we proved to them no other company, larger company, national company, could compete with Winkle. When we showed them what other districts were paying, even though there's a decent increase this time, Winkle was still the best value. For those of you who may or may not know Tom Hamilton, who's a member of the MARB Board, former finance director in West Haven, and a former CFO of the Norwalk Public Schools, was a big advocate when he first saw the bid of, you guys need to put this out to bid, you need to seek other bidders. However, when we were able to show the comparative prices, Winkle was by far the cheapest, and the MARB approved the contract. It was also approved by the City Council as well as the Board of Education, and this is the first of a 5-year contract. It's a little bit more expensive. However, you know, costs of just finding parts and fixing the buses and fuel has all gone up. So, and again, if you follow it, and I follow it, if you look at what's driving a lot of Board of Education budgets, you'll see articles in the paper. Transportation is definitely getting to be a big nut. As I mentioned before, it's a small number in the local budget for instructional supplies. However, you know, we do have other funding sources that we're able to tap into, so I think we do okay. I just mentioned the reading program, which is going to cost us about $2 million. That's not reflected in this because we're able to use what we have left in ESSER funding in order to pay for it's a required reading program. And by the way, one of the nice things that we're going to do through the work of Mrs. Bennett and our reading department and our administrators, we are going to implement the program K-6, so we feel like we're going to have a really nice continuity right from kindergarten through the intermediate school at Carrigan. So we're prepared to do that. We will start training our teachers this year, and we will implement in the fall of 2025, again, as required by the state law. But that's not in this budget. But I think, again, it's an example of how we can fund education, our educational supplies and resources without going into the local budget. We've also been very fortunate, and again, we're starting to look at how we move forward. You know, one of the things that happened since COVID, we've actually really changed the way we've teach. We now teach and provide instruction to kids. It's, you know, every child has a Chromebook. Every kid at the high school has a laptop. We try to provide our teachers with Promethean boards and other kinds of programs and things that not only they use as instructional resources and tools in the classroom, but kids can then also use them at home. So we've kind of totally transformed that. We were very fortunate that a lot of those things were given to us because of the COVID situation. We are now starting to plan for those things that have to be replaced. Even at West Haven High School, which is a brand new facility, it's now 3 or 4 years old, and you know, some of the things are starting to wear out, some of the Promethean boards. So we are working with our IT people as to how we go forward, be it a leasing program or other things like that. But again, we were, you know, from that perspective and a financial perspective, COVID wasn't all bad, but now we need to start replacing those kinds of things. Operational plan, again, I'm not going to read it to you. You can see what that covers. Purchase services, the same thing, pretty cut and dry. You know, we need police and fire to run our extracurricular events, our sporting events, when we hold something at the gym or the rink, or the play, for example, the musical, which you should all go see this weekend. Board attorney copy services, which I'm determined to get down. I'm trying to work with Xerox to, you know, try to reduce the number of copies. Tough with the teachers because they're set in their ways, but we're going to try to get those numbers down so we can get the kids more on computers and maybe hopefully eliminate the need for a copy center at some point. I know that many of you have heard the term Alliance District. West Haven is one of 33 Alliance districts in the state of Connecticut. Now, Alliance money comes in the form of the ECS grant. However, the increases we get in the Alliance grant are targeted funds. When we get an increase, and we're going to get about we're scheduled to get about a $3.5 million increase for the next school year, we put our grant together. That grant has to be approved by the state of Connecticut. It has to go towards improving instruction. And again, it's designed to increase student outcomes, especially in economically disadvantaged communities. You know, it's how we've survived. Again, we're getting a 2.2% increase from the city, but we're getting about another 3%, 2.5–3% increase with the Alliance grant. But again, that's all targeted money. We have to, use that for salaries and programs. Also, and again, I think this is important to point out because there's been legislation. At one time, you couldn't do this. They had, but they still have what they call the minimum budget requirement, which is the MBR. There's a formula now which says if your population goes down, for example, you can reduce the amount of money that goes to the Board of Education, with the exception of Alliance grant. Now, there are some exceptions. For example, if MARB came in and said, you need to restructure your whole district, that might happen. I don't foresee that happening. So, again, I guess the good news is you can't give me any less than what you've been giving me for the last 5 years. I don't know that there's any intent to do that, but that's being an Alliance district. And what I'm going to do now is call up my EL director, Rafaela Frank, because she's going to show you some numbers, which I think, and the mayor was there, Mayor, when Marb heard about some of the needs in our community and some of the services that we're providing to our foreign students. And again, we welcome them into West Haven. They need a lot, they require a lot of service. Rafaela can talk to you about how that is a growing population in our district, and there are a lot of needs and the kinds of kids that we're getting.
Good evening. Like Neil said, I'm Rafaela Frank. I'm in charge of the Yale department besides science. And when I first took over in 2007, we perhaps had around 350 English learners in the district. The chart that's going around, I hope everybody got one. I like to draw your attention to the bottom left corner, and you can look in from 2018 to 2024. In 2018, we had about a 14% total population of English learners. As of April 1st, we have 1,384 English learners, and that is equals to 24% of the total population for K-12. When we're looking at these numbers, I also want to draw your attention to our 3 Title I schools, which are highlighted in red in the last column, which is Forest, Sun Rock, and Washington. And they range from a 38% to 44% total population of English learners. An example will also be Salmon Rock School, the kindergarten class is 52% ELs. The other big difference from 2007, when I first took over, to 2024 is the type of student, the type of English learner coming into a district. A perfect example is our refugee population. We have over 200 refugees in the district. We worked with IRIS, which is the immigration agency in New Haven. They enroll the students in our district. Most of the refugees are from Afghanistan, some are from South Africa, and a few from Syria. Now we're getting Haiti and Ecuador. Most of the refugees are considered SLIFE, which is a term, student with limited interrupted formal education. What that means is some of these students, most of them from Afghanistan, either have not been in school in a few years or have never been in school. So they're coming to us with huge gaps. Our EL teachers and bilingual teachers are providing the oral language support, but thanks to our interventionists like math and literacy, we're providing those interventions to try to close the achievement gap, the academic gap. We've been very successful. We're working hard, but it takes a lot of resources and it takes a lot of staff. And in addition to that, we're funded through the Title III grant, Bilingual Grant, Alliance. All resources are supported through these grants. In addition to that, we also have to take care of the classroom teachers, because now they have 8 to 9 English learners in their classrooms. So not only they have to worry about the language barrier, but also about their academic background, because once they get the language, they're still lacking. They're 2 or 3 years behind, so we have to make sure we're catching them up. So there's a lot of work that we're doing in district. We're providing a lot of professional development for teachers through the Alliance funds and the grant funds, and we're providing support where we can. A lot of the students are coming in with trauma, especially from refugee countries, especially our refugee population. And right now in district, we have 43 different languages. Our #1 language is Spanish, Pashto is second, third is Arabic, and close is Turkish and French. So we're changing. The population is changing, and the needs are changing. And we've been working very hard to address all these needs.
Yeah, there was, by the way, there was such an outcry. Some of you have probably seen that we are, we actually have a holiday next year for Eid, which is a Muslim holiday, because we felt it was certainly justified with the number of students who would have had to have missed school that day. That tells you about there was a large outcry from that population, and the board felt it was time to do that. Let me just tell you a little bit about Rafaela. When she first took over that job, we had given all of our coordinators a second responsibility. Rafaela's job was the science coordinator. And, because she was born in Italy, we said, you might, and didn't know English, this might be a good job for you. And as it turns out right now, she has 2 full-time jobs. We did give her, I actually said to her, called her into my office one time and said, Rafaela, I think it's time you have to make a choice. And when she chose the EL, I was shocked, and I said, no, you're going to keep the science. We'll give you an assistant for the EL. But she really has done a great job from a program that started with so few kids to now about 25% of our school district are non-English speaking students. What's that?
One of the former ELL students that came into our district not speaking English was valedictorian of a recent graduating class and is now a student at Yale. So
Thanks.
just to point out the excellent work.
No, they do a great job of exiting kids. The most difficult ones are the ones who come in older, and the ones that Rafaela was referring to that have the interrupted education. When they're older, it's harder to teach them, and there's so many gaps. In fact, on the next slide, and it's one of our last ones. I know it's I know it's a public hearing. I don't want to take up too much of your time. What I asked Rafaela and Stefania to do was, I said, it would be interesting and I think really effective is if we looked at the number of kids who receive both special education and EL services. Now remember, when kids come in and they're not speaking English, it's hard to identify them. It's hard to identify, what their learning gaps are or what their special needs are, or is it just a language barrier? And I think we do a pretty good job of identifying that, but it does take some time. So that's quite a challenge, and that's a growing number. And this is the last page of our slide. And again, keep in mind that the total increase that we're asking for, we asked the mayor for, was almost $2 million. $1.5 million was approved in the 5-year plan. These are funds. We're only asking for funds that are no longer available because of ESSER. However, we believe that all of these positions are warranted, especially the teachers, the outreach workers. I can have Steph come back up and explain who they are and the service that they provide in a second. But the elementary math and reading specialists provide a lot of support to our kids. And again, they were brought in when there were a lot of learning gaps, which were starting to close due to COVID. The security guards, everybody says, you can't put a price on security. I can put a price on it. It's well over $1 million a year that we've increased our security. A needed cost, but one, and we're not going back. And in fact, those of you that have kids in the school district know that we use the metal detectors at Carrigan, Bailey, and West Haven High School. And, we thought when we brought them in, there was going to be, wow, what's wrong with those schools? People really accepted it very well and said, wow, yeah, we understand. We know why you're doing it. But we've added a security guard in all of our elementary schools. We're actually working in the process, working with the mayor now and the new emergency director on hopefully getting some grants and improving our security cameras. But we, with our security team at Carrigan, Bailey, the high school, all of our events, our security team will go on the road with our athletic teams. Again, we have to do it. And it's quite a cost right now. But I'm just going to have, again, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but Steph, if you just explain the outreach workers, which are really one of the better bangs for the buck in our budget.
So we are fortunate to have 6 outreach workers. They are comprised of members of our community that I think best represent our community. Some speak multiple languages, and their task really is to get our kids back to school. Post-COVID, we've seen a significant increase in decrease, I should say, in student attendance. These folks are going out to the homes and working with families, in addition to our social workers and our counselors, and trying to figure out as a team what obstacles the family's facing that is inhibiting them from sending their children to school every day. We think it's important work. We've gotten great feedback from families. They feel that the outreach workers are less intimidating sometimes than school personnel, and we've seen much success with these individuals.
Yeah, if anything, down the road, I think we'd like to find a way to expand them and have almost one per school. But again, we think the request is a reasonable one. Could I make do if you didn't give me? I guess I could, but I think we've done a really nice job post-COVID of supporting our kids and providing them with the extra resources and things that they need. And I hope you'll see fit to fund the board's budget as the mayor recommended. I thank you for your time tonight. And again, I know we have our meeting on April 30th, which is 3 weeks away, and I thank you for accommodating us because we were originally scheduled to go on the week of the April break. But in the meantime, please feel free to contact my office, and then if need be, we'll set up any meeting. If 2 or 3 council members want to come in at a time, if an individual council person wants to come in, and if you want Matt in the room, if you want Stefania, Raffaella, or any of our facilities people or anything like that, we're happy to give you and provide you with as much information as possible. So we'll make that night on the 30th an easy one for all of you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Superintendent Cavallaro and team. Thank you for the presentation this evening. We look forward to looking through the budget, getting a little bit more acquainted with it, and very enlightening, the numbers that you put up tonight. At this time, we are going to do the public session, but I wanted to give the public an opportunity to sign up on the sign-up sheet that's on the podium before we start, and then I'll need somebody to pass that over to me so we can call them out. Would anybody else like to sign up on the sheet this evening? Okay. Can someone grab the sheet for us? Thank you.
While you're bringing the sheet, I just wanted to echo what Superintendent Cavallaro said. I'm privileged to be here to speak on behalf of the elected Board of Education, to thank the mayor, who has a long, extensive history as a former Board of Education mayor. We are absolutely lucky to have you in this position with the background that you have. We want to thank you for supporting the superintendent's recommended budget. I also wanted to point out that recommended budget includes increases for our educators that are long overdue and well-deserved. We throw around the term bleed blue a lot in West Haven, and there's no better representation of folks who bleed blue than our educators in the public school system here in West Haven. They are certainly not bleeding green. They are definitely bleeding blue. Their loyalty to this city and your children and the children of this community is surpassed by none. They came back 6 months, mere 6 months of school closures and the government being shut down in September of 2020, and our schools remained open for the rest of the time when many were not. And I think that speaks volumes to their character and their concern for our students, and shows in the outcomes that we have achieved since COVID has affected our communities. I just wanted to also thank Kristen for her support and work with us to come up with a contract that was unanimously passed, as the superintendent said, by our board and your board as well as MARB. And I think that collaborative effort is critical in the success of how we move forward as a school district and a community. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Before we call anyone up, we just have one letter to read into the record, which the clerk will do now.
Okay, this is from Jennifer Fiorello, the president and CEO at Bridges Healthcare. It's, Dear Honorable City Council members, I am writing to support the addition of a youth services coordinator position in the city's budget for fiscal year 24-25. As a community-based provider of mental health, substance abuse, and supportive wraparound services across the lifespan, Bridges Healthcare regularly interfaces with the West Haven Schools Health Department, Youth and Community Services to address the needs of the city's residents. Our agency is actively involved with a number of initiatives in the city that support the needs and issues of its youth and families, including prevention efforts, mental health, first aid, office and school-based clinical services, and participation on the West Haven Juvenile Review Board. We can attest to the increasing needs of youth and the support that is necessary to stabilize families. Having a full-time youth services coordinator as a liaison to agencies like ours will help to facilitate and coordinate linkage to services that many youth and families may not be aware of or know how to access. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. First up, Kristen Scanlon.
I don't know if I'm tall enough. Krista Malloy Scanlon, President of the West Haven Federation of Teachers and School Nurses, Local 1547. Good evening, Mayor Boer, Chairman Pascal, and City Council members. This is a first for me. I normally come to the podium every year, pleading with the Mayor and the City Council to invest in education and fully fund the Board of Education budget. This year is a remarkable year. The Mayor's proposed budget has made education a priority. I have not witnessed a partnership between the Board of Ed, the Mayor, and the city in a long time. And this budget is far different from budgets of the past. With the additional $2 million geared towards the Board of Ed, it will provide vital services and secure several positions. These positions are the following: outreach workers that provide social and emotional support to West Haven students and families, math and reading specialists who remediate, assist, and support classroom teachers with resources, modeling lessons, and co-teaching lessons to assist all youngsters and teachers to provide growth in student achievement, part-time cleaners who have kept our buildings in high traffic areas sanitized in this post-COVID world, elementary security guards. Security in all school buildings is a necessity. Now more than ever, we need to ensure our school buildings are the safest place for our children and staff for teaching and learning. And elementary lunch and recess coverages, so that certified staff members can assist in the lunchrooms and make lunch and recess time structured, while always maintaining order and safety in our 6 elementary buildings. As David Wasinger said, an investment in education is an investment in our future. Thank you for investing in education and making our school system a priority for the students and community of West Haven. I fully support the Mayor's proposed budget. We support the Mayor's proposed budget, and I hope the City Council does as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Scanlon and team. Next up, we have Sir William Heffernan.
I guess it's just me. Madam Mayor, Mr. Chairman, esteemed members of the City Council,
I wear a lot of hats in town, and tonight I am wearing my library hat. I am the president of the Village Improvement Association, which runs the West Haven Public Library, and I stand before you tonight in support of the mayor's budget. For over 10 years in several administrations, the library has had their budget decimated. We've had what I could probably call an adversarial relationship with previous councils and administrations, and that all seems to have come to a halt, which we're very pleased about. Libraries in general are all different. All towns are different, municipalities. The rule of thumb usually for a budget for the library is 1.5% to 2% of the city budget. We were finally able to get up to about 1%, and we're very happy with that. And we urge you to support the mayor in her budget. We have had a tough decade or so with our budget cuts and, of course, with COVID. And I think it's safe to say that if it wasn't for our director, Colleen Bailey, you may not have a public library right now. She was able to pull rabbits out of a hat that no one even could see and keep us up and running through the variety of very creative things. And we're here today, and we're very happy. To run a municipality smoothly takes a lot of teamwork, and the library's happy to be back on a team. So I thank you all, and again, we're here in support of the mayor's budget, and we urge you to see it through. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Heffernan. Next speaker this evening is Maureen Lillis.
Everybody's taller than me. Good evening, Mayor Borer, Chairman Pascal, and City Council members. First, I want to start by saying thank you for the opportunity to speak about the Community Health Coordinator position that the Mayor so kindly approved in the budget. I want to just convey how appreciative we are in the Health Department, you Mayor, for your commitment to healthcare, not just in the city of West Haven, but in the state as well. I also want to recognize Councilwoman Catherine Tucker, who's been an ardent supporter of the Health Department team and who has given me a lot of her own time to sit and brainstorm on future initiatives. We are very thankful. I just want to highlight a change I made to my personnel line in the budget, and that's for the Community Health Coordinator position, which is new to West Haven, but not new to local health departments in the state of Connecticut. It's a vital position that will be responsible for creating and managing health and wellness programs and activities. Basically, community-based health and wellness programs designed to address a variety of health issues, improve health outcomes for our residents, and provide advocacy for our vulnerable populations. We will accomplish this by all these deliverables by following the 10 essential services that we're required to follow as set forth by the CDC. Councilwoman knows what those are. It's a model that provides a framework for us to do our work, to make sure we're assessing our communities and we're monitoring health outcomes, and we're looking at restaurants and people who are in need. And there are 10 of them. They're very detailed, and we can certainly go over them at our annual budget meeting. But I do thank you for the time, and thank you again, Mayor and Council, for all of your support. And I'm available for questions at any time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lillis. Next up, we have Michael Terenzio.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I'd like to address Mayor Bohr, Chairman Pascal, and the esteemed members of the City Council. As a department head that was responsible for developing and working with the mayor on this budget, I am very gratified to, I'm not speaking from a prepared presentation. I did forward some highlights on the budget to you all this past last night, actually. But I have been preparing for this budget since I arrived here and assumed the position that I'm in. And the highlights that I'd like to point out to you, and in preparation for the 23rd when I come in front of you again to answer some questions, we are actually increasing our services to the Allentown Fire District by about 20%, and actually reduced the request. And I can only attribute that to the leadership of the mayor and the finance director. Mayor Bohr is quite modest. It was quite a experience in having the background from the mayor's office as well to come up with the budget that I was able to do by increasing services that are sorely needed in our district. The district, as I've learned, has been devoid of necessary personnel in accordance with the NFPA, below standards for the type of demand zone that we respond to. In accordance with the National Fire Protection Association, I made it my one of my goals in first getting into the position of getting a sixth person on duty for the district. That's in accordance with national standards, and we've achieved it. So I am very gratified and excited that this budget was able to be presented to you for your approval, and I hope you see your way clear to my envision. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. John Galvin?
Mayor Bohr, esteemed council, my name is John Galvin. I live at 40 Crest Street. I'm the prior president of the VIA, and I think Mr. Donovan recalls my many trips before the council. But fortunately, it seems that, and thank you, Mayor Bohr, I'm here to continue the rah-rahs for this budget. But Sir William Heffernan, as he mentioned, was not, was the prior administrations were not kind to the library. This budget, for the first time, funds us at a level that we have not seen since 2014. 2014. We were cut repeatedly because several members of the council, I guess, didn't feel we needed a library. Our home in Allentown was sold out from under us, even though when it went up for public sale, we had a higher bid. We still continue to pursue that dream. You heard from the superintendent of schools about we're considered a alliance or underfunded or underserved district by the State Board of Ed. And one of the main contributions that can be made in the future is getting us to restore that library in Allentown. I know I'm a little off the budget, but before you will have before you in a matter of time to, with the MARB, that $1 million that was allocated really wasn't. We were never, there's a quote line that you have to be above in order to be considered by MARB, and we were never put above that line, even though in all the documentations it says that we should be getting a be getting that $1 million. And I won't speculate on on who's the problem, but let me just say that your support is vitally needed to address this major shortcoming in the library's ability to serve the neediest part of our city. And let me just speak briefly on what you will see before you in your packet. And what it says is library wages. This is a misnomer. Our request is much more than wages. It really should read library funding. Just to go quickly through several things here, in addition to our wages, that covers gas, electricity, water, telephone, financial services, building maintenance, office supplies, health insurance, life insurance, workers' comp, overtime, telephone, FICA, pension. So just a quick thing, the administrative salaries in this budget have gone up a total of 3%. The operating expense just this year is budgeted for 19%. So I think the mayor's recommended increase of 12% is, first of all, long overdue, but second of all, in line with these other items. And again, thank you for your time and consideration, and certainly I'll be asking my councilman, Ed. I had a good relationship with Robin. I was sorry to see her go, but I used to be able to hug my council person, but I think we'll call a timeout on that. So, yeah. Anyway, thank you again, and please remember, it's a funding line, not a just wages line. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Galvin. Next up, we have Colleen Bailey.
I do have a small number of solar eclipse glasses if anybody would like some. We have, I think today we've alone given out well over 200 pairs of glasses, so it's amazing. But good evening, City Council, Mayor Borer. My name is Colleen Bailey, and I'm the Executive Director of the West Haven Libraries. I'm here today to support the Mayor's proposed fiscal year 25 budget, and most notably the library's budget. I want to thank the Mayor and the Finance Director for taking the time to discuss the library's budget last month. The library's current budget, as you've heard, is less than it was 10 years ago due to repeated cuts and is less than 1% of the city's total budget. We were able to maintain our hours, staffing, and services thanks to federal funding through the pandemic. I thank the mayor for listening to our needs now that the federal funding is no longer available after this year to enable us to continue the services West Haven residents depend on. The library's budget this year is less than 1% of the city's total budget, with an average cost of the library being $28.65 per resident. The library has been used as both warming and cooling centers, and last year hosted 970 programs throughout the year that were both educational and entertaining, along with hosting and collaborating with several organizations in town, including West Haven Community House, Adult Education, the Senior Center, the VA Hospital, Arts West, to name just a few. The library offers programs for assisting with technology, such as our Digital Navigator program, where residents can sign up for technology assistance and walk out after 3 sessions with a long-term loan of a laptop. West Haven has an internet connectivity rate of 1 in 5, meaning 1 in 5 residents do not have internet access in their home. The library is where those residents go for internet access. Last year, we had 25,144 Wi-Fi connections to our network and 11,552 sessions on our 32 public computers. The library continues to be a third space that you can go to for whatever you need, whether it's a place to sit and work or do nothing, attend a program such as Storytime with your child, or pick up a book, DVD, museum pass, solar eclipse glasses, or a need for safe space. Last year, the library had over 113,000 visits, an increase of 29% from the previous year. The library is so much more than just a place that houses books, and we deeply appreciate the support of City Council and the Mayor with our fiscal year 25 budget, which will allow West Haven Library to continue to keep our current hours of operation and provide the programs and assistance that West Haven residents need. And thank you. Now, who wanted glasses? It was over there. All right.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey. Next up is Donna Walsh.
I have no gifts. I'm sorry. Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Donna Walsh, 244 Bellevue Avenue. I work in the Registrar of Voters office, but I'm here as a citizen taxpayer, not a... One of the items that I saw on our budget, however, is $25,000 for rental lease space to move the elections out of the schools. I think this is a bad idea. Schools are used because they're public spaces, they're owned by the taxpayers, rather than going out and renting space. I looked around at all the other, well, a dozen towns is all I had time for, not 169. But nobody, they all use schools. If they're not in schools, they have a community center, they have sometimes a library, a couple of churches, but probably free. Nobody pays. It's an expense that we don't really need to incur. Most of our elections are not on school days like this week, and that was avoidable. It just wasn't avoided. Finding places, which we had to do during COVID, church across the green there, which was dark and nobody could see, and people were falling down the step on the way out, yada, yada. They have to be handicap accessible. They have to have parking. It's a lot. The registrars themselves are getting more and more tasks added to their list every couple of years, and I don't think once you get these places, how easy are they to maintain? Are they going to stay the same? People don't like when they vote in two different places, let alone a different place every year. How consistent can they be? And who benefits? We're going to put the election here. Well, how come it's there and not here? You're favoring this business or this hall or whatever it is over somebody else. That's it. I just think schools belong to everyone. It's public. Move the September primary to the summer. Is that a charter revision? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a law? Oh, all the local elections are in September? Okay, that makes sense, yeah. Well, everyone else is doing it, so that's my piece. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walsh. Next up, David Lovett. Is Mr. Lovett here? How about Eugene Lovett? Okay, seems they have left. And last one we have on the list is Margaret, forgive me, Ashley?
Margaret Ashley, the last one. I was just about to go home and eat. I'm with her. I'm not on the list. I came in late, everybody. My name is Benita Lambert. I'm at 33 Sanford Street, and I want to thank my councilman, Mackey. And I also want to personally thank Mayor Boyer for the first time. I've lived here since 1988. I've never had a mayor come out to my house on a Sunday afternoon to take interest in our neighborhood, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. And I support the budget. I've been to a budget meeting, but I'm supporting it now. Support the budget and anything else that you're doing because I believe in you. Anybody that takes that kind of personal interest in our neighborhood, I am 100% behind you. And also, I spoke to Mr. Abdul, don't know his last name, an engineer, and he told me, and I don't know where it is in the budget, but the Sanford Street project will be starting next month. And I want to thank you all for your support and for putting that in the budget and everything. Thank you so much for everything. Really do appreciate that.
Thank you, Ms.
Okay.
Lambert.
My name is Margaret Ashley at 1 Sanford Street, and I was hearing from my neighbor that they're finally going to start working on the Sanford Street project. I didn't really mention, I live at 1, so I have damage too. The water, you wouldn't think I would have damage, but I have pictures showing the water came down the back of some people's houses, and it really moved the soil in my yard. Now we got a pond in our yard, and that's because the soil has been removed. I can give these to you and show you the river me and my neighbor has, and this is when the water was really coming down. If you want, you can have them, but I hope when you do the project, you come and fix the soil in my yard so I won't have a river. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Ladies, before you leave, I just want to clarify, at this point, it's just a study, and we're hoping that it goes on from there, but it is just a study to see what we can do over there.
Excuse me?
I just want to let you know that at this point, the project you're talking about is just a study, and we're hoping it goes further from there, but we're only doing the study right now to see what we can go further with. I believe
Okay.
that's correct, Mayor?
Yeah, it's about, I think it's over $500,000 to have environmental engineers come out and do a study of that whole area, because the water's coming off the Boston Post Road. So first they have to do the study. That takes a good 7, 8 months. I don't want to make any promises. Then they come back and they tell us what the issues are, and then we figure out how to fix them. So
Okay,
what's-
I want to say this.
Yeah.
They did that about 5 or 10 years ago, because I've been on Sanford Street for about 40
Apparently
years.
it didn't work.
And the problem is the drain, the water drain does not go all the way through Rodney Street. It needs to be cleaned. They said it was broken, and they needed to put down new sewer pipes. Run the pipes all the way through Rodney Street, and that would really help the problem. That's what they said, but they didn't have the money then.
Yeah, they did it in 2018.
They didn't go all the way down
when
Rodney
I
Street.
submitted the complaints and had over $10,000 worth of damage in my basement. That's when they supposedly had done the study. And Abdul, the engineer, Mr. Abdul, has been with the city of West Haven since the water contamination.
Mhm.
And if anybody knows what the problem is, he knows what the problem is.
Yes.
I don't know why we need to spend all this money for another study
Another
that's
study,
already been done.
yes.
But I'm not the expert, so. Okay.
Because every time
This
it
is a budget
rains, it
meeting,
goes
so-
down the street, and then we have neighbors can't even go down the street to go home.
That's true.
So the street is flooded.
Okay.
So
all
I
right.
appreciate.
I misunderstood.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Mr.
again.
Chairman, will you indulge me for just one more minute? I was negligent in my comments. I forgot I only had my Board of Ed hat on, but I wanted to put my West Haven Seahawks hat on and remind you all that that lovely chair that's on the front page of the picture of the budget book was donated by the West Haven Seahawks.
Oh, very nice. Thank you. Anybody else that didn't write down their name want to speak tonight? All right, for the second time, would anyone like to speak before the council tonight? And third and final time, would anyone like to speak before the council tonight? All right, public session's now closed. It's now 8:15. I just want to thank, on behalf of the council, Mayor Bohr and Superintendent Cavallero for their presentations this evening. We appreciate the time that they and their staff have put into the budgets this year. Now, we've already set times for the department heads to break down and explain their budgets even further over the next month. And our goal is to balance the resources required to effectively run the city while keeping the needs of the taxpayer in mind. And I want to remind the council and the public that after we pour through the budget, looking for changes and savings, we'll then send it up to MARB for their recommendations and approval. They have been known to make some suggestions in the past, so please wish us luck. sorry, wish us luck, and don't be afraid to reach out to the council if you have any helpful tips or ideas that'll help us save money. And I just wanted to thank Stacy. We have a lot of new folks, new faces on the council, and Stacy's already outlined the things that we can expect, what's expected of us, and how to move forward, and she's just a great help to us, and I just want to recognize her while I have the chance. Thank you. You're welcome. With that being said, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? All in favor? Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any extensions? Can we go home? Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.